The girls looked a long time before they found the big rock that was split in another picture. They found flowers growing in the shade of graceful white birch trees. The same flowers were the picture that showed Samantha and her father picking a bouquet. Finally, the girls climbed up to the highest point of the island so they could see the view. The dark green pine trees and the hills that sloped down to the wide lake looked the same as they did in the picture Samantha's mother had painted. "Gosh, you can touch the clouds up here," said Agatha. "Look, there's the goose's neck," said Agnes. She pointed to the narrow part of the lake that they had paddled in the morning. "And there's Piney Point," said Samantha. "It looks very small from here." The girls were high up, seemed to be standing where the sky met the land. The wind tagged at Samantha's skirt, if she wanted to lift her up like a kite into the clouds. Samantha looked in the sky. The clouds were dark and heavy. "I think we'd better go," she said to the twins. "It looks like it might rain." Agnes squinted up at the clouds. "You're right," she said with a sigh, "but I hate to leave." "We can come back," said Agnes. "Oh, yes," agreed Samantha. "We can always come back, anytime we want to." They hiked back to the waterfall, gathered up their belongings, and put their pack baskets on their backs. Samantha felt tired but content as they walked down the narrow path to the lake shore. What a glorious day! She would remember it forever and ever. She was very glad they had come. As the girls came into the edge of the water, the leaves of the silver maples were showing their shiny undersides. They were always a sign that a storm was coming. "Is this where we left the canoe?" asked Agatha. "I think so," said Samantha. "Well, I don't see it," said Agatha. "Uh-oh," said Agnes. The girl stood in a row on the pebbly shore. "Didn't you tie it up?" Agatha asked Agnes. "No," Agnes wailed. "I thought you did." "Well," said Samantha calmly, "it's probably just drifted off a little bit. Let's walk around the shore and see if it's washed up somewhere else." It was very hard to walk around the shore of the island. The girls had to climb up and down jagged rocks that were slippery from the lake spray. Soon all the girls were wet and out of breath. The canoe was nowhere in sight. "I'm cold," complained Agnes. "What will we do now?" "Swim home?" Agatha suggested desperately. Samantha wished she could laugh, but Agatha's silly ideas didn't seem funny now. "We have to use our heads," she said. "Now let's go back up to the rocky cliff. We can see all around the island from up here. We're sure to spot the canoe." Wearily, they trudged up the same hill that they'd scampered off a few hours earlier. They followed the path past the waterfall up to the rocky cliff. But now the sky was the color of tarnished silver, and the wind was strong. Samantha held her hair up in one hand to keep it from blowing in her face. She looked all around, but there was no canoe to be seen. No canoe at all. Samantha's stomach flopped with fear. "We're stranded," moaned Agatha. "How will we ever get back to Piney Point?" "Someone will come and get us," said Samantha. "But how will we know we're here?" asked Agnes. "We can send smoke signals," said Agatha. "But I don't have matches. How can we start a fire?" asked Samantha. "You rub 2 sticks together, I think," said Agnes certainly. "Or you can make a paper catch with a magnifying glass. I read that in a book." She pawed through their pack basket and dragged out her magnifying glass. "It won't work. The sun's got to be shining," Samantha said, and the sun certainly was not shining at that moment. Big black clouds crowded next to each other, blocking the sun completely. "Maybe if we made lots of noise, someone would hear us," said Agnes. So Samantha blew her bosun's whistle as hard as she could. Agnes and Agatha shouted, "Help! Help! Somebody help!" But the wind was blowing so hard they knew no one could hear them. They gave up and looked longingly toward home. "Jeepers, I'm hungry," said Agatha. "It must be dinner time by now." "Well, at least when we're not home for dinner, they'll realize something's wrong," said Agnes. "In fact, they started looking for us when we weren't back to swim with the admiral." Samantha hoped Agnes was right. She sat down next to the big rock from the wind. It was getting colder during colder. All 3 girls wrapped up together in the picnic blanket, but it didn't help much. It felt as if they sat there for hours, watching the sky get darker and darker. A chilling drizzle began to fall. "We may have to sleep here tonight," said Agatha, hugging her knees to her chest. Agnes shuddered. "I hope there are no wild animals to creep on us." Samantha started to say, "No, I don't think," when they heard a rustling sound beneath the path. "What's that?" Agatha cried. "Shh!" hissed Agnes. The girls heard more rustling. It might have been the wind, but it sounded more like a bear or a wolf pushing through the trees, coming closer and closer. Then they heard a moan. Samantha gasped. "Eek!" yelped Agnes. She clutched Samantha's arm. The girls held their breath and listened. The sound came closer. Another moan, more rustling, and then a crash. Samantha grabbed a big stick and stood up. "Get behind me," she whispered to Agnes and Agatha. Then they heard the moan once more, and then a low, struggling voice to be heard over the wind. "Help me! Help me!" Samantha lowered her stick. "Who's there?" she called. "Help!" the voice called him again. "Oh, Samantha, help!" The girls looked at each other, then started toward the voice, stumbling over one another as they headed down the hill. Lying across the muddy path was the admiral. "Admiral!" cried Samantha. She hurried toward him and knelt by his side. "What happened?" The admiral's voice was weak. My head, he gasped. "I fell and hit it on the rocks." He put his hand up to his eye. In the darkness and rain, Samantha could barely see the deep gash on his forehead and the blood that was trickling from it. The admiral's eyelids drooped and he moaned again. I came to help you," he whispered, "but now you'll have to help me." He tried to go on, but his voice failed. His eyes closed and his head dropped to the ground. That's the end of that chapter. Bye.